Now, for my first segment, I'm going to talk about this is not something I normally would want to talk about, but since I'm elaborating the perspective of my ideology, I will give my take. So this is a general culture war issue. It's about how Neil Young and now Joni Mitchell and probably others that I don't know about yet, they basically said, take my music off of Spotify because you have Joe Rogan on it and you're paying him so much money. So, again, this is a culture war issue, which this show tends to avoid, but I'm going to spell out exactly why I avoid them and what's being missed in this discourse. So, first of all, I support Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and literally anyone removing their music from Spotify for any reason. I am a Spotify user, but at the same time, I would respect, Joanna Newsom doesn't have her music on Spotify. I respect that. Why not? You don't get much money from having your music on Spotify. It's a ripoff for the artist. So, if they have any reason at all to request their music be removed, I support it. But when it comes to the public, just regular people discourse, I don't think we should, as the public, really put political energy behind banning Joe Rogan. And I have a few reasons for saying that. For one, just straight up, there's so many famous right-wing pundits who are way worse than Joe Rogan. And I get that he's the topic of this because Spotify has a contract with Joe Rogan, but still, there's better media figures to target as the left, and there's many people who are better to target than media figures. I don't even really think we should be targeting media figures for our political action at all. Of course they should be criticized, but I don't think the left should be issuing ultimatums about media figures. They should be trying to build up to a place where they can offer ultimatums to people who actually have power, because Joe Rogan has power to disseminate ideas, but he's pretty far down the food chain when it comes to power. And even the government, I wouldn't say is all the way at the top of the food chain. I think there's a lot of really rich people who are above the government. And so my perspective is we should be building a left that can, so right now the left is only strong enough to put these pressure points on people like Joe Rogan. My biggest priority is building the left so we don't have to focus on people like Joe Rogan. We can target the people with power. I'm not talking from an ethical perspective. But for my next point is that it's just kind of hard for me to scold anti-vaxxers super hard. I am definitely anti-vax. I am vaccinated, and I would support a mandate to some degree. I don't know if I would support unvaccinated people being imprisoned or even fine, but maybe some negative consequences in some ways. And I mean, there might end up being de facto mandates in the sense that what if most other countries mandate vaccines and you just can't travel out of the country if you're not vaccinated? Then again, I don't know, but I'd imagine a lot of unvaccinated people are not big international travelers. It's hard to say though. So I guess what I'm saying is yeah, I am pro-vaccine, and to some degree I'm even pro-mandate, but Joe Rogan and millions of Americans have been really into alternative medicine and weird medical theories for probably most of their life. And no one has really, scolded into them very hard or gone out of their way to teach them what's wrong or try to change their mind, and now, like, when it is really a big issue, like, alternative theories about medicine and vaccines is very detrimental to public health. Now they're like being scolded, and it's like, do you really think they're gonna change their mind now? Like, I don't want to be like determinist or defeatist. I just think that, like, maybe this should have been taken into consideration before we were in a pandemic. And, you know, I'll get really down to, like, I'm just kind of trying to dig deeper and deeper into this issue. And here's what it ultimately comes down to. If you're a poor American who generally has poor access to healthcare, right? Like, that goes without saying. Why wouldn't you seek easier alternatives? If someone, okay, so let's say you have cancer and you have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get treatment for it. Or someone says, hey, you could buy horse paste at the feed and tractor store for $19.95. Why wouldn't you try it? Like, so that's with cancer, right? Now, a lot of COVID stuff is being, like, I believe it's being, like, subsidized for the government, so you're not paying for it. But say you're like 40 or 50 years old. You've barely had health care. You've had to, like, kick and scream and fight just to get access, quote unquote, to healthcare, which isn't even that good. Why would you trust the government to take care of your COVID? They haven't taken care of shit for you. Like, if you had pre-existing conditions and you got COVID, like, I see why people are like, let me buy the horse paste at the feed and tractor store. It's $19.95. I get why they would try it. And ultimately, like, I'm getting to the real nugget of my point. I think the real root problem of the vaccine illiteracy is not people like Joe Rogan. It's not people like blah blah blah. It's not even like plandemic. Like, those are all symptoms of our shit healthcare system. You wouldn't have as many theories like that, and they wouldn't be so, like, culturally pervasive if people had a reason to trust the healthcare system. Like, it would take a while because people believe what they believe, even if it's no longer useful. But I think a lot of these unhelpful and destructive perspectives on health would be greatly mitigated if the government managed to provide useful, accessible, good health care. I really think that's all it comes down to. So when you start talking about, let's ban Joe Rogan from Spotify, it's not that I'm, like, opposed or unopposed even. I just think it's a really poor use of political energy. When you like dig away at the issue, what are you gonna do? Get rid of Joe Rogan and then those people are gonna, like, listen to him on something else? Okay, what does that accomplish? You want Spotify to cancel their deal with Joe Rogan and then he just, like, goes back to YouTube where his content already is, as far as I'm sure? Like, so even if you could completely cut out Joe Rogan, you know, there's worse people who absolutely will take his place. And you have to go deeper than the most surface level culture war bait and realize that a lot of these issues are a side effect of our economy. The way our economy functions.
Pull it up so we can see. Are you bringing it up, Jamie? I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson or some shit.